This is Listen Lakeland, the show that keeps you up to date on all the things that make our city a great place to live, work, and play. Today's host is a professor of religion at Florida Southern College with over 25 years of experience in higher education as both a teacher and administrator. He came to Lakeland 13 years ago as provost and vice president for academic affairs at Florida Southern, serving in that role for 8 years under President Ann Kerr before returning to the classroom. Please welcome your host, Dr. Kyle Fedler.
Welcome to the good life.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Dr. Kyle Fedler, and it's great to be hosting this month's episode of Listen Lakeland. This show is an extension of Lakeland Vision. For over 2 decades, Lakeland Vision has been a voice for the citizens of Lakeland, working with community stakeholders to create a bright future for our city. Today on Listen Lakeland, we have the pleasure of having Dr. Alex Rich. Dr. Rich is the Executive Director and Chief Curator of the Ashley Gibson Barnett Museum of Art at Florida Southern College. He's also Associate Professor of Art History and Chair of the Department of Art History and Museum Studies at Florida Southern, where he also holds the George and Dorothy Forsyth Endowed Chair in Art History and Museum Studies. Dr. Rich is a specialist in modern and contemporary art history, with a particular focus on European and American art of the 19th and 20th centuries. He earned his PhD in art history from the Institute of Fine Arts in New York City at New York University, and his AB from Dartmouth College. Dr. Rich has joined us today to discuss the latest developments at the newly renamed museum. Dr. Rich, welcome.
Hi, Kyle.
A lot has happened since we last had you on the show about 5 years ago. But before we talk about those new developments and plans for the future, can you just give us, our audience members who may not be as familiar with the museum, a brief overview of its mission and how it serves the community?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. The museum has been a staple of Lakeland and Polk County culture for nearly 60 years now. So we were founded in 1966 by the Junior League of Women here in Lakeland. And when the museum started, it was in a different location. It was much smaller scale, it had different aspirations, but we had live animals, we had children's art and activities, and by the 1980s we became an accredited fine art museum. And at that time, really our mission shifted from just being a museum to a museum that provided really exceptional exhibitions and educational programs for our community and beyond. And in 2010 we became a Smithsonian affiliate museum, which is a really nice feather in our caps. In 2017 we affiliated with Florida Southern College, which shifted our mission again, and that made us both a community museum and an academic museum. And so the focus became to do everything we've done really well for decades and decades, but to be able to make it kind of a more, I always use the term, intellectualized experience unapologetically, so that you can learn and enjoy learning and look at the history of art in really powerful ways and feel like you've come away with something that you didn't know before you came through, and feel proud of the learning process as you move through the museum.
So no more live animals? No
more live animals. Although, when we're thinking about our 60th anniversary exhibition, we'll have to see how we honor that somehow. But our mission has really stayed the same. And even with our new name, that is an optical shift for us, certainly, but we remain the same museum that we've been, dedicated to being a free admission organization and just continuing to do all of the types of exhibitions and programs that people have come to respect and try to do them better and better.
It sounds like it's just a kind of an evolving mission rather than a real shift.
Yep.
You mentioned the partnership with Florida Southern. As provost at Florida Southern, I was fortunate to work with you and Dr. Kerr when we had the opportunity to partner with the museum. Can you tell us a little bit about that partnership, how it works, what maybe the benefits for community members, students are?
Yeah, it's amazing. We're already in our 8th affiliated season. We started talking about this in 2016. It was just this framework. Maybe we will affiliate the college and the museum, and if it comes together, it'd be amazing. I knew that regardless of that, I'd be curating the exhibitions for at least a year and a half of the museum. Luckily, the affiliation came into fruition. And so what people should understand is, we're not merged, and we have not merged up to this point, certainly, but we are really closely connected in the fact that we share staff, we share certainly faculty use. I am a shared in-kind part of the museum's organization. Officially, I'm a Florida Southern employee who runs the museum as its Executive Director and Chief Curator. So we have shared resources, but also what it's done is really give us the ability to be able to, again, lean into the benefits of being academic, which is another imprimatur of the value of art and art history in a community like ours. I think many people would not expect to find a museum of our caliber and at the point in its trajectory as it is now here in Lakeland, Florida. And I always mean it it in the least insulting way to say, my goal, along with my really expert team, is to have everybody who walks into that museum every day say, wow, what is this museum doing in Lakeland, Florida? With all respect to Lakeland, I want people to say, this is incredible that it is here in Lakeland. And so I think the academic imprimatur really helped with that with Florida Southern. For our students at Florida Southern and for certainly our staff and faculty, it adds another resource to enhance the classroom experience. For those who know Florida Southern, of course, you know it well from your time as provost and remaining as a professor, right? We're all about engaged learning. And so one of the things we always think about as classroom professors or as chairs of departments is how do we take what we teach in the classroom, what we instruct, and really allow that to have some way to play out in the real world. And increasingly, we know there's the emphasis on the career benefits of certain academic disciplines. While I stand for the fact that I think just studying for the sake of studying is really important, and people should study religion, people should study art history, to answer the question with the idea, well, here we now have a department that's dedicated to art history and museum studies, where we can have students, whether they're majors in my program, or students taking art history, or even students taking mathematics, or students in English classes, finding ways to apply what they're learning in the classroom to something concrete and historical through the object culture of history, I think is really, really important. And so it becomes their institution at the same time that it's the institution also, I think, for our whole community. And this shared aspect, I think, is really wonderful. And I have found that with our community, when they see students at work in the galleries, helping us to put up shows, or who are assisting at events, that's something that also, I think, really feels beneficial, both not just to our students, but also to our community, and the fact that they feel like this is something we're also seeing the next generation evolve. And museums are important. And I think we need that next generation to be able to be real experts in the field so they can, hold on to the history and teach it well and correctly in an unbiased way.
Yeah, I know so much history overlaps with religion. There's religious iconography or religious references that I'll often, when I see a show or an exhibition that I think is going to be valuable for my students, I try to point them over there. Yeah. So it's a great resource, not just for the museum studies students. But,
yeah, and that's and that's certainly, I think that's a struggle for every academic museum, let alone any museum, is how do you get those folks who don't necessarily see the inherent connections between their interests and or what they're studying in a classroom, if we're talking about academically, and the museum. And I mean, there's a connection to everything. What I love about being an art historian, what I love about being a museum director and a curator and, a professor of this field is that art history, I think, and I would dare say uniquely among disciplines, touches on every other discipline, because we all live our lives mediated through object culture and through the visual world around us, and it's connected to everything, as opposed to kind of telling something in words. These are the real things that were either made by somebody's hands or the things that represent that time of the past. So, I mean, that connects to everything.
Well, when we put that partnership together, of course, that was then the Polk Museum of Art. Yep. And I think one of the most visible changes that have been made is the name of the museum has evolved. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, the museum has had a lot of name shifts over its history, actually. It started as the Youth Museum of Imperial Polk County. Imagine that mouthful of a name. And then became the Polk County Museum, the Polk Public Museum, the Polk Museum of Art, the Polk Museum of Art at Florida Southern College. So now this seems like a rather big shift to become the Ashley Gibson Barnett Museum of Art at Florida Southern College. What that means is that we have received an incredible endowment that allows us to be sustainable. And I want to clarify this also for folks who may wonder about what this means. It means the museum is not going to go under. It does not mean that we are flush with money, meaning that we don't need our community support. We still have these exceptional exhibitions that we need our community support to be able to bring to the museum. In order for us to stay free admission, we need that support from our community. And in order to have the educational programming, we still need that support from our membership and anybody who can, commit any donation of any size, large, small, everything. We appreciate it because, again, we can survive in that building now, which is great. It's a relief to know our museum isn't going anywhere, but for us to do the quality of programming and to remain free, we do need that community support. So it was a great relief to us, and something that we at the museum, the college, the board of trustees of both the college and the museum sought a naming gift so that we could have this sustainability. But there's still so much support that we need that's important, because to have a museum like ours, or a museum that a community like ours or a region like ours aspires to have, we need that, we need kind of everybody to be part of it. So it's an incredible moment for us. It certainly adds new attention to us, probably gives us a little bit more of a national, international means of being recognized, because I think, Polk county refers to something that sounds like it's truly just a regional museum. And while we are a great regional museum, I think in order for us to drive attention to the museum and help it to grow and to bring the types of exhibitions and programs we bring, we also have that ability now to kind of draw attention beyond just the region.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly a sign of confidence that the Barnett family has in the museum and in your leadership. So
yeah, and I mean, and it's a nice storied connection, because the land that the museum is on once belonged to George Jenkins, the founder of Publix, of course, and now, through a wonderfully generous gift by his grandson and his wife Ashley, right? So Nick and Ashley, they have kind of brought this full circle. So what better name could be attached to this than the Barnett family name?
And what, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that land also originally the Publix?
Yes.
It was original Publix.
It was.
And I believe at one point Florida Southern owned that land.
Yes, I mean, I have the deed in my office, right, of the sale of the land to the museum from Florida Southern, right, and it all transferred. So I mean, it's amazing that it's come again, that it is now the Ashley Gibson Barnett Museum of Art at Florida Southern College. Just kind of feels almost like an inevitability somehow. It just took several decades to get there.
Well, obviously, one of the other visible changes at the museum is just the facade, and that's got to be very exciting. Can you talk about that? Just the expansion of the physical footprint. Of the museum.
It's been a really exciting summer in that way, right? There's the name change. The big picture here is the transformation of the footprint of the museum. So our present building was opened in 1988, and it is about 38,000 square feet. That includes everything behind the scenes, offices, operations, and we have about 18,000 square feet of gallery space. Our main two galleries, though, the ones that if people come to the museum, or when they come to the museum, or when you all listening come to the museum, the main two galleries that rotate are about 3,200 square feet. That's galleries 1 and 2 internally, or our Dorothy Jenkins gallery and our Harper family gallery. That's 3,200 square feet. That's very limited for us. And the building itself, when it was opened in 1988, was meant to house 500 objects in a collection total. Since we affiliated with Florida Southern College, the collection has grown by 33%, actually. We've added 1,100 works to the collection just since 2017, and we're now at 3,300 objects for a space that was intended to hold 500. So there's so many works of art that we never get to showcase because of limited space, and we have one dedicated permanent collection gallery at this point, which is our Spirits Gallery with our African and Oceanic art collection. But anybody who's been to any great world museum knows there are permanent collection spaces as well. And we just don't have the space right now. And when that building was opened and designed originally in 1988, there was a plan to expand it, actually. So those plans are also lingering in my office. And it was meant to go up, actually, to add a second floor. Decades and decades later, 30 plus years later, when this dream is finally happening, the idea was that we, different technologies, different architectural needs for a modern museum, and we decided to build out into the parking lot instead. So this is the culmination of a 30 plus year dream, and we're adding 14,000 square feet dedicated to gallery space. So if you've charted these numbers I'm using here, we basically have 3,200 square feet of rotating exhibition space right now, and we're going to 14,000 square feet. So it's almost like, if I could walk everybody listening through that museum now, it's like you're walking into a whole second museum, and it's really incredible. So we'll be at about 50,000 square feet is the total space of the museum, and about 30,000 square feet of gallery spaces, which for a museum where we are in our region, it makes us a medium-sized museum now. So it's really exciting. It's been so much fun to watch it. Even on my way to this interview, the glass is going into the atrium right now. So it's fun to see it evolve every day, and walking through the spaces, doing hard hat tours is really thrilling, because we're imagining what the future of this museum looks like quite literally within the spaces of a modern expanded wing of the museum. So my team is excited. It's a daunting challenge to now say, wow, great, we have the space now. Now we got to fill it up, and it's a lot of work for a rather, for a mighty but expert team. But we don't have the hugest team in the world, but we all know we're going to pull this off really well, and we can't wait to reveal it to the community, because this is a big deal for us. From the outside look of the building, it's really cool. It's really modern. It's a wonderful contrast visually to the existing brick museum. So as you said, the facade is something people are going to see from the parking lot and just want to know what the inside of it looks like. And if that gets people through the doors of the museum, that's terrific. And then they'll discover a really wonderful and diverse array of exhibitions being planned for the years to come.
I do want to be clear, though. The current museum is open during construction.
Yes,
correct?
I mean that was for many museums that would be a challenge. Although we vowed that we would not close the museum unless something drastic happened. That we would keep the museum open through this entire construction process. And so we officially broke ground in May of 2023, and we've not had to close the museum. And while this expansion also includes a renovation, right now the focus is in the expansion with minimal renovation in the existing building. Once we have the expansion fully open and up and operating, there may be moments where we shutter the older building just so we can redo the floors, for instance. But our goal is to not have closed the museum through the entire process. And there's going to be so much to see that even if you can't enter the first floor for a few weeks, you're going to have another 20,000 square feet of exhibition space to wander through. So yeah, so it's so we never shuttered it. We hope not to have to shutter the museum at all. And as long as we can stay open too. I mean, as long as we can afford to stay open, we will not shutter this museum.
Well, probably a question that many of our audience members have, a question I'm sure that you struggle with each and every day is, when will the public be able to? It's
a good question. So kind of more hot off the presses as we're coming out of 2 back-to-back hurricanes, that has thrown off our timeline only slightly in terms of delays, and then coming in with the holidays. So we were originally planning, and I can reveal this, we were planning to, grand opening. Members were going to enter this building in November. But given the hurricanes, given delays, given some damage that we now need to remedy within the building, we are pushing that back a little bit. We don't want to interfere with holidays. We want this to come off with a really big bang. So while my team and I will enter the museum and start putting up the exhibitions and having it all ready beginning in November, we're now looking at the very start of the year. So everyone should keep their eyes out for the very beginning of January will be the time to finally enter that expansion. So I'll be in there next month with my team, but the public will have to wait a tiny bit longer, just because we'd rather have everybody here fully back in town and have everything up, ready to go, and they all get to see it start the new year with a real bang.
And you mentioned that members of the museum will get a first look. Just talk a little bit about membership?
Yeah, I mean, members are the lifeblood of this museum, and many people wonder, well, why would I be a member of a free admission museum? Well, my answer is, well, we can only be a free admission museum if we have members who are able to pay to be members. There's so many reasons to be a member of the museum with the benefits, but I always start out with the idea of this, more of the bleeding heart side of it, paying it forward, that if you can afford a membership beginning at $50, and of course we welcome the $10,000 members, we welcome anything, but anything in between, you are providing the ability for someone who can't afford to be a member, if we were to charge at the door, to be able to come to the museum free admission. So that's number one. That's just kind of the true paying it forward side. But our benefits, like seeing exhibitions first, seeing this expansion first, getting free classes at the museum, getting free admission to area attractions, depending on your level of membership, getting to go to 700 or 900 other museums for free, it quite literally pays for itself. I mean, you can go to area attractions here and pay $20 or $25 per person. If you have a $50 membership, that's just your one visit there, and you're getting to go for a reduced price or to many for free. So there's that. You get to come to our member receptions, which otherwise you'd pay $10 a pop at the door, to member exclusive events. So the list goes on, and it grows and grows, and it will grow because the expansion offers us all these really wonderful opportunities to offer more programs that will be not necessarily member exclusive. We will do member exclusive events, but also that members will get first picks for. And if they're ticketed events, members will get the first grab at the seats for that. So you kind of get the way in. And all the new expanded spaces, really excitingly, Kyle, I don't even know if you know this, my request, the academic in me, the request was that every gallery be outfitted to be a lecturable space or an eventable space. So every new gallery has a screen in it. So in theory, for me, for my classes, or for some sort of art historical events, or for some sort of special lecture series or special speakers, or again rentals, a screen comes down in the space of the galleries themselves, where you can have a projection and be amidst the art. So it's kind of really exciting to think about what types of events this new space will allow us to do. So we're already dreaming of the types of events, and we talk about it every day. Well, let's hold that until we get the new wing.
So public groups and organizations can rent museum space?
We hope so. I mean, we hope people are really excited about the rentable options for the space. I mean, again, with the way we designed it, every gallery has a different experience as well. So for instance, on the second floor, if you've looked at the facade of this expansion, there's an oculus or a big window in it. And so there's one gallery with 2 windows in it. That's our gallery is going to be dedicated dedicated to art of the world, specifically meaning art that's not from the United States. That one I requested, can we put a door on that one? So that's one gallery where the space can actually close up. So for certain events, right, more private events, that might be a perfect space for that. But basically, everything from any of the galleries to our new creativity lab, to our auditorium, to our library, we hope that many people see this as a great incubator for, for arts professionals, certainly, for those studying, for educators, but also it could have nothing to do with museums or art, and we hope that we're a really fun, vibrant space for that, because I think when people enter the space, they're going to realize this is great for anything. It could be for fashion shows. It could be for club meetings. It can be for PEO events, for Rotary Club. It could be for anything, and we welcome the rentals as well, because again, that helps to support the museum. So in a way, we like to offer the space, but also we do need some revenue to be able to keep operating the museum as well.
Yeah, I know. I've been to several events there, and it's a wonderful venue, very, very open and welcoming.
And where do you see? And then when people see, if you think the existing space is pretty good for rentals, where do you see the expansion? It's like breathtaking. You walk in there like, oh gosh, we can do so much with this, from the soaring atrium to the beautiful staircase that's going to be in there. It's so much. It's more. I think what's great about our existing building, it's kind of like a fortress. We say we don't really worry in a hurricane, right? It's not going anywhere. The new building certainly is hurricane proof, of course, but it's as light and airy as I think the other one is a little bit more kind of 80s brutalist style. So it's this wonderful contrast as you walk between the two buildings. So I think people are going to be really excited about the potential usage of the space beyond just enjoying the art.
Well, speaking of the art, can you tell our audience a little bit about the current exhibitions and maybe future exhibitions that are coming?
I would love to tease them. Yeah, so we actually we just opened a Dutch Impressionism show, and you'll remember, Kyle, when we launched the rebranded Polk Museum of Art at Florida Southern College, the first show that I curated was Rembrandt's Academy, and we thought, how do we come out with a big deal exhibition? And just for those who are not in the curatorial world, usually you spend years curating exhibitions. At that point, I remember it was January of 2017, and I had to pull something out of my hat quickly. And so we partnered with Willem Hoekstetter of the Hoekstetter Museum Foundation in The Hague, and we pulled off a show that was incredible, featuring 16 of Rembrandt's students. And we're like, okay, this is just to give you a hint of what could come. And then because we developed this really great relationship with Willem, we did another exhibition called Music and Dance and Painting of the Dutch Golden Age back in 2020. And this is our third partnership with him. And what I love about this Dutch Impressionism show, which is on view now through February, is that most people, when they think about Impressionism, they think about French Impressionism or maybe American Impressionism, but rarely do they think about Dutch Impressionism. So people are going to meet a whole new side and style of Impressionism, specifically the Hague School, but they're going to see artwork that they kind of expect to love if they like Impressionism a lot. So that's in our main two galleries in the existing building. Again, we'll find out how we phrase the difference between the two buildings coming up. Of course, I don't want to say the old building. It is the older building, but in the existing building. And then as we look forward to the expansion, in addition to our student gallery, which will remain the student gallery, and we rotate 9 exhibitions through there every year featuring exclusively the artwork of Polk County school students. And again, also we bring 5,000 fourth graders through the museum every year still.
So that's kind of a holdover from its original mission as a children's museum. Yeah.
So since the early 90s, we've had this wonderful agreement with the Polk County School District, where one, we bring through fourth grade students, about 5,000 of them, but then also our George Jenkins Gallery. Again, you can see that connection is long-standing. That is a dedicated student gallery. We do 9 exhibitions in there. We do receptions celebrating the students' artwork. We have another one that will come up, next month. It's about every 45 days that we rotate the art out. So that remains on view. We have the Spirits Gallery on view. And then as we move into the expansion, we have a lot of fun stuff. And I've revealed a bunch of this, so I guess I've revealed this to members, so it's out there. I'm sure people want to talk about it. So some of what's coming up really excitingly is shows of our permanent collection. We have a really strong collection of American art since the 1960s. So quite literally, we're going to have a show in one of our large upstairs galleries called American Art since the 1960s. I'm really excited. That's our kind of highlights of our collection. Everything from, Warhols and Rauschenbergs and Rosenquifts and Miriam Shapiro. It's going to be really cool. It's just basically like the showcase of the strengths of our collection. We're also going to be doing a really interesting exhibition of ceramics from our collection. People might be surprised to know that we have a really vast ceramic collection from across time, from antiquity through to today. And so we're looking at doing this really cool educational exhibition that teaches you all about the human urge to decorate over time, not just to have utilitarian plates and vases, but actually to decorate those, to tell stories or to capture history. So that should be a really fun show. We will also, and I think this is kind of the big drum roll moment, we will be bringing back the Highwaymen. We did a Highwaymen exhibition at the museum in 2022, which was the 4th highest ever attended exhibition in the history of the museum. And so I'm really proud that actually between 2021 and today, our 5 highest ever attended exhibitions at the museum have happened during that time period. Most recently with our Rockwell Wyeth exhibition, which was the highest attended exhibition in the history of the museum. So that's another thing we'll have to top at a certain point. But the Highwaymen were so popular when we showcased their work in 2022, and that was an original exhibition featuring artwork from Ron Woodsby and the Woodsby family's collection. And so we knew that if there was an opportunity to have more space to show the Highwaymen and meet people with their great desire to learn more about them, we decided, well, let's see if we can do that. So actually, we will be running in perpetuity Highwaymen exhibitions at the museum. So rotating them out on different themes. We're going to start with the rise of the Highwaymen, focused on the 2 founding members, Harold Newton and Alfred Hare. And so that will be at launch. And that means that basically, people come this year, next year, the following year. We're going to keep rotating them out, and people will get to see the Highwaymen, and we know they love that and love learning about it in the space of an academic museum. So that's coming up. We will have recent acquisitions down on the ground floor. We will also do showcases of our just returned Italian Baroque paintings by Giulio Carpioni. We have 4 5-by-5-foot paintings that went for conservation down in Miami for about a year and a half. They needed major work on them. They're from the late 17th century. They have returned to us. It's a really big showcase of those works. It's really exciting. And talk about the conservation process. Again, part of that academic side of it. And then we're actually building up in the spring to a big Frank Lloyd Wright exhibition as well. So we have the campus, the Frank Lloyd Wright campus, and we've talked about probably for the past 5+ years doing an exhibition that is an academic museum look at the campus as imagined originally by Lud Spivey and Frank Lloyd Wright, and the plan that was achieved and not achieved. And so we are pulling off a big Frank Lloyd Wright and the College of Tomorrow exhibition, and that will open in March. And the centerpiece of that show is actually going to be a scaled model of the complete campus plan, both what exists and what was envisioned to exist. So that's just a small tidbit of what we're doing.
Sounds like a great variety. Well, some folks who've never stepped foot in the museum have actually participated in museum sponsored or funded events. Many of them have attended Mayfair by the Lake.
Yep.
Is that going to continue to be offered?
Mayfair will continue as long as we can, again, pull that off. So Mayfair is entering its 53rd year this year, and it draws 15,000 plus visitors from across the region, but certainly from across the country, with artist representation, about 160 artists every Mother's Day weekend in May. It's a staple of that weekend. It's again affectionately called Baked by the Lake by everyone. It is very hot, but we love running it. It seems like it is a program that everyone kind of really waits for. I think they mark their calendars for, and it's fun to see everyone come out. So it's a big production to pull that off. So basically, once one year's Mayfair is completed, our Mayfair coordinators, Joy and Leslie, step right in and they start planning for the next.
And for our audience members who may not be familiar with Mayfair by the Lake, you just want to say a couple sentences about what it is?
It is an art festival where it's an open call for artists, and they submit entries for what their booths will look like and what their artwork and their wares will look like. And then we have jurors who will go through and narrow down the list to the top entrants. And that usually turns out to be somewhere between 150 or so and 160 artists. And then they come to Lakeland, and all around Lake Morden, which is the lake right by our museum, are tents, artist tents. And so everyone comes out there, and, it's everything from paintings and sculptures to, jewelry. There's usually, great food. Again, people are sweating themselves, but they are, it's always a really, really fun weekend. And we hope everyone comes out for it. And if you've not been to Mayfair, you're missing it. And it's always ranked as one of the top festivals in the country, actually.
It's a great place to get Mother's Day gifts. It's my go-to every year for that. What challenges do you see coming forward for the museum or for the arts in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I mean, I hope our challenges at the museum are few. I think we have a really exciting moment here to entice our immediate community and beyond to be able to kind of re-meet the museum and certainly meet them where they are. And I think we have a lot of potential to grow. And I really hope that the programming that we have grows and that our diversity of exhibitions will also appeal to a broader demographic and broader public. There are people who love museums, but I really also, and I love the people who love museums, but I also want to get to the people who are more resistant to museums and think that there's an aloofness or a coldness about museums. And I really hope that, it's the same approach I have in my art history classes. Some people think, art history can be so boring, or I know nothing about art. I challenge anybody to say that as you come to the museum. You'll find something that connects with you, because we all, in a way, right, we're not all, we don't all, get graduate degrees in art history, but we all look at art and visual culture every day in such a way that I think there is this great appeal of the museum. So I hope that we can reach broader audiences there. I also hope that we are able, again, to garner increased support from our community in a way that allows us to aspire toward the goals and the exhibitions and the programs that I think our community really deserves. So, and then in the arts in general, of course, the arts are not are not always in the greatest stead in terms of their importance. And I mean, I would argue that the arts are essential, not just in kind of growth of knowledge and education, but also in terms of making us fully rounded, empathetic human beings. And I think that's a challenge that we're going to combat all the time.
Alex, just want to thank you for joining us today. It sounds like some very exciting things going on with the museum and the college as well. And if any of our audience members have any questions, should they just reach out to the museum? Yeah,
I mean, I'm always happy to have anybody reach out to me directly. You can find my contact on our museum website, but our museum website is the best way to find out what's going on in terms of our events. There's always lots of events going on, lots of programs, our exhibition schedule. So if anybody wants to find out more or reach out to me, it's agbmuseum.org. agbmuseum.org, and that's the best way to find out how to become a member, how to attend our free events, etc.
Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Listen Lakeland. Your feedback is valued, and we encourage you to head over to www.lakelandvision.org to participate in our monthly survey related to today's show topic.
I said, welcome to the good life.
Listen Lakeland is brought to you as a collaborative project between Lakeland Vision, the City of Lakeland, and Hall Communications, a community working together to provide an exceptional quality of life. Want to watch the show? Check out the video version at lakelandvision.org. Thank you for being with us.